Howdy, howdy. Frosty510 here. And this is Lies of P. And I've beaten the game and I want to do a little quick recommendation. So, no spoilers, of course. Um, I'm about 50 hours, I think. If the, hour count is right. I'm on PlayStation 5. Game runs beautifully. No errors or anything, no bugs. Some frame drops in it. I think just in one boss fight, I had a couple little frame drops. Everything else is perfectly fine. May have just been bad luck, whatever. But having said that, music is really good. Characters I actually liked, and story I liked. Again, spoilers, so not spoilers. I'm not spoiling anything. But I think it's a really really good game, and I highly recommend it. I've got a whole bunch of videos of me doing boss fights and things, and I'll try to make them come out a little bit later so you don't get spoilers and stuff. But if you haven't already bought the game, just avoid those if you can. Um, try to avoid spoilers for the most part. It's not too much really, but you do have choices in the game, which is nice. So and they do actually have some impact. Particularly on if you're going for completionism, the 100% and all that sort of stuff, you have to work hard, and you probably have to look stuff up, which is sort of good, really. Um, so yeah, positives. There is a learning curve. You do have to learn the parry and the dodge, and you do a mix of them. I'd say is probably the best way to go. You may feel tempted to try and parry everything, perfectly time block everything, but I don't recommend it. I just think it's better to do a mix. Dodge opens up a lot more opportunities for attack at times than just perfect parrying, like if you're just trying to get guard break. So the mechanisms. See, look, I'm down. The mechanisms in the game in terms of stagger, I think, are well implemented. It's not too easy to cheese. That said, I did play with the baton, so like a police baton motility, so like strength. And then later on, I got a substitute weapon, so something that was much more for certain circumstances and worked much better in certain boss battles. And it's just important to have a backup weapon, honestly. But I do think there's stacks of weapons, and they have the assemble weapon system where you can mix and match them. But they don't introduce enough of the weapons early on. I do feel as though a lot of people will quit early because the game doesn't give you the tools early. But as you go through, you get a lot more options to customize your character and choices. You get a lot more impact in your decisions in terms of your build and your P organs, and it's like a skill tree, kind of like a skill tree, and as well as your Legion arm as well. So like your extra weapon thing. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can change up depending on the circumstances. Having said that, upgrade materials, you can get them all eventually. It just sort of takes a bit of work. The game doesn't really offer you any great spots to grind XP until much later in the game. So it's one of those things where it just takes a bit of time to just grind XP if you feel as though you're under leveled, which you won't really. The game is well structured. You go from A to B to C to D. You go through a linear structure. You don't have really any optional things here and there. I mean, you have some sort of side missions, but I do think, yeah, the game would be better, slightly better, if it offered more customization things earlier. And I feel as though it just would give people a bit more of I can do this now, because if they're struggling to get the blocks down or the dodges, and they're not reading the bosses, and they're having a bit of trouble, when really they would do a lot better with a different weapon. I think it's a little sad when people quit games. I understand that you have filter bosses and things like that, and like Souls-like games, you have that sort of stuff. But I do, having gone through it all, I feel as though I want people to go through it all. I want them to make it. One of the things the game has is a summon system where you can summon an AI to help you, and it has skill tree that works into that, so you can actually make it much stronger. I didn't do that, and I try to, solo the bosses, and I think that's totally normal. But there were some bosses where I did use the summon just because it was just too much pressure for 2 phases to go through and to absolutely nail it. Most of them I didn't, but just a couple where it was just way too much stress. So like you're trying for 2.5 hours, 3 hours on your own, and you feel as though if I have the summon, it's no guarantee of victory. None at all. But it just gets you well into the second phase with some health and some heals, and just then you can work it out. You still have to learn the boss mechanics. There's no skipping that, unless of course you got the fire stuff and you're doing all that sort of crazy advanced build. But it is a fundamental. You learn the enemy behavior. You learn their attack patterns. You learn, and that's how you get better. Understanding your enemies, which is good. That's what games should be. Some you can sort of cheese here and there, but it's really all about terrain management, which again, still skill. So, as a Souls-like game, I think it's really good. I think it benefits a lot from being more conventional in terms of leaning on the fairy tale Pinocchio lore, I suppose you'd say lore. That story narrative allows it to have a solid foundation, even though they do things very differently to say your Disney Pinocchio movie and all sorts of stuff. But it's done in a way that you can understand the flow and the conclusion and things, more coherently than your usual Souls-like experience, which has a bit more esoteric depth. But at the same time, there's plenty of depth in Lies of P, and it's quite good when you actually tap into it. So you could be superficial on the game and not realize that it has a lot more in it. And some of the character interactions and things and choices you make do have an impact on what information you receive and things you learn about the world and the characters in it. And I think the characters really stand out. The world itself, I think they did a really good job. I think I can understand criticism, it's a bit dark here and there, but it is, post a puppet uprising, so it's like, things have gone bad, as you'd expect, Totally understandable. And I do think the enemy diversity is really good. You feel like it does change as you go through the game, so one of those things where the more time you spend in the game, the more you feel as though, it's got more and more, and I'm really happy to get it and play it. I didn't, get the full version with the extra $15 special outfits. I just didn't see the need, so I just got the standard edition, and I'm quite happy. Boss fights are tough, bloody tough, and it's a mixture of when to attack. That's where all the pressure is, and so your weapon selection is so important because how long it takes you to hit the enemy, how much reach you have. I played with the baton, so I'd always fall short, so I had to be very close to the enemies, and it kind of puts more pressure on you to gauge your depth. So like if you've done fist builds and things like that in Soul, so you've done like a Ceastus and all that sort of stuff, you understand, or shield only runs, the pressure on you to get in range is more than anything, because you may only have a small window to attack. So that's where parrying sort of opens things up if you want to try and parry to stagger, or you do a combination of the two, or just do a heavy attack, one heavy attack in the openings, as opposed to trying to spam, light attacks. It really does. You do have to weigh things up. Every decision is important, and that's in combat. Every second matters. Every decision you make matters. So you can't just spam attack and just, because when you're in an attack animation you can't block. When you're in a block animation you can't attack. Everything is, Dark Souls and then they kind of border on turn based, and it's one of those things where it's interesting when you think about it, how you're so locked into the animations that it does become a turn-based game where, I gotta dodge, attack, block, dodge, attack, dodge, left, dodge, right, move forward, attack. Oh, and then sprint, dash, attack, and then like Elden Ring, you can jump and then dodge, and it does become like that sort of basis, which holds true in Lies of P. Now, I feel as though there's room for something more. I feel like there's got to be an evolution of the Souls-like genre to go to the next level in terms of the animation cancelling, which again, you could say Sekiro does a lot more in that regard. But games are, that's a bit of a challenge, especially for studios to mimic. I mean, you say Wu Long tried it, and their parries, I think their parries are alright. But again, it's a totally different feeling of game. But back to Lies of P. I'm a little melancholy. Just, it is an experience, and if you feel the character progression and story, if you feel it, it's quite good. If you don't, though, which can happen, maybe you'll just think it's an average Souls-like or maybe above average copy. But it's its own game, and I feel like it's definitely worth going the journey. Now, New Game Plus and all that sort of stuff. I don't quite see New Game Plus in Souls-like games as being anything good, and I've never really felt that. Except for like Niowa being the exception because it's a different structured game. I mean, it's it has its similarities, but it offers much more than any of the Souls-like games do in New Game Plus. It's just no question. But I'm kind of like, I'm not sure whether I'll do New Game Plus. And that's one of the things people go, oh, I'll go through again. Like Armored Core 6. Very different again, but at the same time, it builds and gets, offers more in New Game Plus in terms of story progression and things, but it's like, eh. Okay. Keep getting distracted. So, pros. Combat feels satisfying when you execute properly and you understand your enemies, you learn, adapt. Great customization in terms of different weapons. They could be earlier on. That would help a lot, I think, for new players. Have more options earlier. And in terms of the skill system. There's some good side missions, little basic side missions like treasure hunt stuff, and some great character stories and emotional feelings that I felt. So, actually relatable, understandable storytelling at times, which is something that Souls games can be a bit more, again, esoteric, a bit more ambivalent, a bit more here and there and hidden beneath the lines. And so I do feel as though there's a pathway forward. The Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, they're trying, but I feel as though there's room for a conventional Souls-like game that isn't based in a period piece or some abstract world that could actually tell a story better than anything that FromSoft's ever done. I feel as though there's room for something conventional, understandable, clear and coherent that could do better and have a wider reach and find something in an audience that can understand and feel with the story. And I feel like Lies of P, it's not quite there in terms of being totally, mainstream and easy to understand, all this sort of stuff, but it is good. I think it offers a lot. And I think it's limited and progressed by its main character. So the main character being a puppet, so you can't talk unless somehow you talk in the decisions. It's kind of weird. So the limits of your character being a puppet are a positive thing once you go through to the end of the game. But if you stopped halfway, I think you'll only ever see it as being a diminishing decision, which is sort of sad because you have to wait till it gets through for it all to pay off. So, I think a good discussion game, really, for people once they've all finished it. Talk about their thoughts and feelings and things and different endings. So it'll be good. See how it all unfolds. But I recommend the game. Highly recommend the game. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think, for me, it's definitely a better game than Armored Core 6. Easily. But again, it's like a comparison of time as well. Like I'm, close to 50 hours, Lies of P, and then Armored Core finished that in 16, 17 hours. Oh no, I think No, I'll say 20 hours just to be fair, because it's a multiplayer and stuff. So, and that was more expensive, of course, which makes no sense really. The pricing, I think, of Armored Core 6 is not correct. But then again, if you go New Game Plus, plus, then you'll get more out of it. But unless you don't feel like you're compelled to do that, then you get less out of it. So it's all personal experience. It's all my opinion. I'm Frosty 10. Like and subscribe. But at the same time, yeah, I didn't want to spoil it, so I'm not spoiling it. See, I'm not showing anything. No gameplay or anything. Not spoiling any of the systems. As soon as I log into my character, it would spoil it all instantly. So that's why I've kind of not done that. The demo is available though. Yeah, just try the demo. If you're on the fence, just play the demo. It doesn't offer you the customization and things that that once you get past that actually make the game better and better and better, and all the other different weapons and stuff. So it doesn't quite give you the full picture of the game, the demo, but I think generally speaking, it should be enough. You can also watch my videos if you want. There's just the boss fights, they'll just spoil it for you, but some of the early ones maybe. But you can watch people streaming it and things like that and try and make up your mind there. But it is a better game to play than to watch, I found, particularly. It can be frustrating to watch someone struggle to beat a boss. And, people suggest things, all sorts of stuff. But just, yeah, always do your research. Always go around and ask and things like that. But I think your choices matter in your skill tree, and I feel as though lots of people who struggle maybe made the wrong choices, or they thought that they want things that they didn't need, or they got things that don't actually benefit them much at all, and there's all that sort of stuff. Do you need guides? No, I played blind. I looked one thing up, but actually no one has an answer for it. So it's like, oh. So someone who's beaten the game, New Game Plus, New Game Plus Plus, they don't have an answer. So it's like, oh, no one can answer my question, so that's just how it is. All the wikis don't have a clue either. So that's how early on in the game is. But it's kind of a good thing. You don't need to know anything, just go in. Just be careful with your attacking and your movement and positioning, all that sort of stuff. And the enemies like to do that, holding the attack to the last second stuff. So dodging is, I think, better off early, and then you learn a couple parries here and there, and that's great. And just try and, in boss encounters, just learn some of their combos, and if you can parry their combos, you're doing great. Just do that. But at the same time, you can just hold block, you'll take a bit of damage, but you can get it back with the health, because it's using the Bloodborne system in terms of health, but the enemies do it too. So, you lose health, but you can hit the enemy and get some of it back. It's not as lenient as Bloodborne. I feel like Bloodborne is more lenient, but you can upgrade it in the skill tree to become more lenient. So you lose less. I mean, you can regain the health faster by hitting the enemies and all sorts of stuff. Music is really, really good. So there's a music machine in the game. If you collect the things, you can collect music and then you can play it. I do recommend playing them as soon as you get in, because some of the songs are better than the standard song. But the late game song is really good, so that's why I've got it on in the background, just a bit quieter. I don't want to undersell the game, so it's kind of like, there's a couple of moments that I really felt just like, oh my gosh, and then other moments where I realized things about characters and was just very intense emotions at times, because I was just like, yeah, I got really angry at times and really sad at times. So and they weren't cheap moments either. They weren't too forced. They weren't emotional manipulation, because some of them you could miss if you didn't quite pay attention. But yeah, it's a good game. I do wish it had multiplayer, online multiplayer, as instead of the Spectre, which is your AI summon. It would be nice to summon other people, but I do feel as though with all the tools that they have, maybe the fights would be really, really, really easy with two people with the full kits. But then again, you can just increase the boss's health. That's kind of just the basic balancing multiplayer. It's interesting. Yeah, Yeah. I've talked enough. If you're still here, like and subscribe. I do want to do like a whole video talking about like everything that happens in the game, but I want to wait maybe on that. But yeah. Again, I'll have all the boss fights on my channel, spoiling everything. I'll try to make the thumbnails not too obvious what's going on. Explosions and things like that, just to cover it all up. But yeah, the outfits are good. You do get masks from beating certain enemies. Don't keep the mask on the whole time. I recommend you don't do that. Take it off every now and then. Just that's my only tip. All right, I'll catch you next time. Highly recommend the game. 8 out of 10. Liza P. Great game in its own right. Yeah, even better once you finish it. And once you go the whole journey, it's awesome. But again, people may not do that. It's kind of sad. Is what it is. Tell me in the comments what you think of the game. If you've played it, finished it, or you're still playing it right now. If you need help with any of the bosses, I can give you tips. But having said that, I did play Strength Club, so I was kind of at a disadvantage the entire time. But my backup weapon was good. I tell you. Pistol, rock drill, absolute beast against big bosses. Alright, catch you next time. Bye-bye.